G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, midweek report time. So, we're going to get straight into this. So, Oleksandr Usyk only broke literally in the last half hour by Mike Coppinger. He's reporting now that Oleksandr Usyk has left his home country and that he's now crossed the border into Poland to begin training and preparation for said Anthony Joshua rematch. Now, obviously, I said in my video this morning that the talk was kind of about June time. I wouldn't be at all shocked if they wanted to do it during the summer. And to be honest with you, if they were doing it, say, in the UK, makes more sense doing it in the summer because football's not going on. You get a lot of stadiums free. So if they want to do it in Spurs Stadium again, probably be a bit easier to do it kind of maybe in July or in around then, end of June, start of July or something like that, as opposed to doing it, you know, any other time, you know, during the year where there might be football on or something like that. Or, you know, I think they're the only real times they can do it, to be honest with you, unless they push it back further to maybe September, October, which I seriously doubt. So it looks like AJ Usyk is happening. Those thoughts of interim fights for AJ, I would say pretty much we're looking like this is going to be Usyk next, unless something dramatic happens, which at this stage I don't think it will. It does mean that, you know, people like Joe Joyce, and obviously Frank Warren was saying, you know, he's made approaches to, you know, Team Joshua. You know, that could mean anything. It literally could mean he sent them an email saying, hey, yeah, that's literally what it could mean. So you got to look at what Joe Joyce is going to do next. It's a shame Joe Joyce got that wrist injury, because I remember towards the end of last year, Frank Warren was saying, well, it was probably about October time, to be honest with you, he was saying that, you know, he was planning to get Joe Joyce out by February or March this year. Well, that isn't going to happen. Joe Joyce, there was talk a few weeks ago of potentially Joseph Parker. Maybe one or the other would go, you know, onto a different platform. I don't know. That's an interesting fight. Obviously, they could potentially do that. They're both highly ranked with the WBO. They could potentially make that a final eliminator, or maybe let them fight for the interim title or something like that. You know, these sanctioned bodies are like, if a champion is going to be held up for a bit of time, they'll normally just slap an interim title on. There you go, happy days, you've got something to fight for now. So maybe that's what we'll see with Joe Joyce. In terms of other heavyweight news, the first three subjects or topics are heavyweight news. Boxing Scene's reporting this. JARRELL Big Farmer Miller, his drug ban will officially end on June 16th, and he will be eligible to go for a boxing license again. The Nevada Commission have said they will only grant they'll only be able to grant this so long as he continues to record negative VADA tests. So the Nevada Commission, I'm assuming that means he's going to be tested consistently from now on. You know, that they obviously don't trust him, rightfully so. I mean, his track record, I mean, Jesus. A tree is known by its fruits, as the saying goes. Look, Miller, how many has he failed now? He won for AJ, and that was he was the one accusing AJ. You often see that with these guys. They'll accuse others of doing things that they themselves are doing. It happens so often. You see it with people in, you know, jobs where they're ripping people off. You even see it in people's relationships. You know, I'm going a bit off topic, but I'll just fill you in with a little story. I remember being in a job a few years ago. It's about 5 or 6 years ago. I think about 5 years ago now. And there's two people in it. Now, both were in relationships. They were both friendly with each other. Yeah, they would go for lunch, you know, and sometimes me and my other friends at the job at the time, we'd tag along, stuff like that. But the girl, her boyfriend outside the job, completely banned her from ever speaking to him again. And we were kind of like, that's a bit silly. Like, she told us all about that. She's like, that's why I don't talk to him. We were like, that's a bit stupid. But, anyhow, the reason why he banned her was because he thought they were having an affair, which they weren't. And he himself was having an affair with a co-worker. So you'll always see that, like, with people, when they're the guilty party will accuse the other of being the one, you know, committing the crime. And Miller did that with AJ, and he was on all kinds of stuff. Obviously, that was in 2019. 2020 comes around. Who was he meant to fight? Was it Jerry Forrest? He was meant to fight on a Top Rank show. and they ended up letting Carlos Takam have that fight. I think it was Jerry Forrest now, or was it John? It was one or the other. But that was because, again, he popped, and these weren't like these substances he's popping for. They're not small substances that you'd get over the counter necessarily, or you'd have. There are some items on the VADA and WADA list, USADA as well, where a good example would be Bermain Stavern several years ago. It might have been 5 or 6 years ago now. He was having, was it an energy drink, I think it was? And in that energy drink, there was an over-the-counter energy drink you go into a shop and buy. It had stuff in it that was on the VADA list. Now, he was fined. This was going into a fight with Povetkin, which he never ended up going into. But he was fined for that. So there's often times where that can happen, and I guess their kind of way of looking at it is you got to watch what you eat, you got to know what's in it and drink, and if there's something in it there shouldn't be, you should know, whereas Miller wasn't like that. I mean, these were human growth hormones. Some of them you had to physically inject, like that, was it Adoradol and GW5 or something like that, some crazy names on some of these. But a tree is known by its fruits, as the saying goes. Personally, I don't think you should ever be in boxing again. I think it's bad enough that, once, in my opinion, is too much, but I think he popped in K1 as well, didn't he? And, it's weird, like, with Miller, I think he should be banned for life. I really do. But they're obviously going to let him fight again, more than likely anyway. It'll be 4 years come November he'll have boxed since his last fight. I think his last fight was against Bogdan Dinu. I think that was his last fight in 2018, towards the end of that year. So he's not fought since then, nearly 4 years. The kind of selfish boxing fan wants to see him in that regard, because I want to see if he can still have the same work rate. And he has released some footage of himself hitting the pads. And JARRELL Big Farmer Miller is a big boy. He is a very big boy. But in these clips I seen I think it was during the summer, he looked big. Like, this is a big boy, but he looks even bigger now. So, God knows. How long before he pops again? I wouldn't imagine it'll take very long. He doesn't strike me as being the sharpest tool in the box when it comes to, they won't catch me. Oh, they did. Kind of like that. So, that's where we are with Big Farmer Miller. He's coming. He's going to try and make a comeback. Will it succeed? I doubt it. Will he probably get popped again? I expect so. Tyson Fury sparring Martin Bakole ahead of his fight with Dillian Whyte. I seen an article. It was on the Independent, I think it was. It was a UK website. Where Tyson Fury was saying, for this Dillian Whyte fight, he wants to come in at a career heaviest. Quote him, he said he wants to be in the ring, a man mountain, in the ring with Dillian Whyte. I think he said he wants to come in at high 19 stone, or in around about 20 stone, in around that. Now, obviously, Fury's heaviest, I think, was in his rematch with Wilder. I don't actually think he was heavier in the trilogy fight. Now, it wasn't much of a weight discrepancy, but in all honesty, he looked better aesthetically in the rematch than he did in the trilogy fight with Wilder. He had a lot more flesh in the trilogy fight, it looked to me. Now, Fury against Wilder, when originally that was broken, originally when he weighed in, I thought that was a mistake. He'd been teasing coming in heavy in the Wilder rematch before, and I thought it was a mistake many others did. It shows what I know with regards to that. Obviously, Team Fury know his body. Of course they would. They know better than I would. I just assumed him packing on excess weight against Wilder would be detrimental. It wasn't. Against Dillian Whyte, I'm not necessarily say it's going to be detrimental, but I don't think I don't think it will benefit him as much coming in heavy against Whyte, with the benefit of hindsight, that it did against Wilder. I think with Dillian Whyte, he'll want to box. He'll want to be probably a bit lighter on his feet. He'll want to be a bit more mobile, and he'll want to have a bit more energy. He can say he feels strong at 275, 280 pounds, and I'm sure he does in some aspect, because he's not having to get weight off and leave himself drained. I get that, but if you're moving around the ring at 280 pounds, you are going to be slower, and your body is having to carry excess weight. How is that going to be able to do it? Is it going to be able to do it as it used to for 10 rounds, 12 rounds? I don't think it will. I think Fury, if he's too heavy, may be forced into a situation where he'll have to engage with Dillian Whyte when he doesn't necessarily want to. I've spoken before about this fight that Fury needs to engage when he needs to, when the opportunity is there, but not before that, because you could be, even engaging when the opportunity is there, but even before that you could leave yourself exposed. So we'll watch the space with Tyson Fury. We'll see what he'd be interested to see what he weighs in now. To be honest with you, I wonder would he top the 280s? Surely not, but stranger things have happened. Eddie Hearn has said that Callum Smith's next fight will likely be on Anthony Joshua's undercard. He said if Smith doesn't get a world title this year, then he may end up in a big domestic fight against the winner of Joshua Buatsi versus Craig Spider Richards. Interesting. Well, you wouldn't imagine Callum Smith would get a world title shot this year unless Dimitri Bivol beats Canelo. Because if Dimitri Bivol loses to Canelo, you would imagine that Canelo's going to fight Triple G next. Thereafter, I mean, that's pretty much set in stone, because already confirmed. Canelo's talking about potentially fighting in December. Potentially. I think it depends how hard these next two fights are. But that might not be with DAZN. That could be with PBC again. Could be with Top Rank. Could be with anyone. So WBA route, if Canelo wins, you would imagine chances of Callum Smith getting that shot are slim. You would imagine the winner of the Beterbiev and Smith unification probably would face Anthony Yarde, or they'll wait for Canelo to do undisputed. So chances of Callum Smith actually getting a title shot, I would say, are slim to none. Certainly this year, if Canelo beats Dimitri Bivol. In terms of the winner of Buatsi versus Craig Richards, that was announced the other day, and I think it's a good fight. I'm not actually upset about the fight being made. I'm upset that I don't understand why promoters do this, why they couldn't just rearrange the dates. This is taking place on the 21st of May, a venue yet to be announced. What other fight is taking place on that day? Zach Parker, Demetrius Andre. And it really does show that Eddie Hearn, I think, is kind of, this little experiment with Demetrius Andre trying to push him is done, because Demetrius Andre is still essentially an Eddie Hearn fighter. He's going to Frank Warren to fight Zach Parker on BT Sport, and Eddie Hearn is putting the DAZN card on the same time. I don't like that. I don't like it in general when promoters do that, whether it be Eddie Hearn, whether it be Ben Shalom, Frank Warren. I just think that that's just such an ego trip from the promoter. It's happening this weekend, and this one isn't Eddie Hearn's fault, because he announced the Josh Warrington fight well in advance, and then Ben Shalom announced that he's putting on the Richard Riakporhe fight on the same day. I mean, it's not gonna do anywhere near the view as it would do if it was on a separate day. I don't understand why Hearn doesn't just do what he did last time, which was Josh Taylor was fighting on the Saturday. Okay, we'll get the O2 on the Sunday. Perfect. It's a good compromise. And boxing on a Sunday is good. I personally enjoyed it. It gave me something to do on a Sunday evening. So I don't like it when promoters do this. I really don't. And I think it affects the show. I think, you've got one show thinking, okay, we're going to need to push things back. We're going to need to get this. I don't understand. I don't like it. In terms of the fight between Joshua Buatsi and Craig Spider Richards, I like it. It's a decent step up for Joshua Buatsi. Obviously, before Christmas, there was talk, it was announced that he would fight Maxim Vlasov. He pulled out with an injury, as far as I believe, and that fight got pulled. It's never been remade, and I think Team Buatsi knew that fight was a step too far too soon. I mean, just when you think about Maxim Vlasov, he's a big puncher, he's got good work rate, he's absolutely massive. I mean, this was a guy who wasn't a small cruiserweight, and he was beating cruiserweights, knocking them out. Buatsi would have, I think that's biting off more than you can chew. I think Spider Richards is the ideal opponent for him. I really do. I think it's the ideal opponent for Craig Spider Richards. Didn't think we get this fight at one stage. I thought Richards was looking at, world level, world title fights. So obviously the money is probably to his liking. He maybe feels he's getting a better deal taking this than he would going down a world title road. It'd be a long wait for one of them as well. And quite risky. I mean, you might slip up along the way. So, look, I do like this fight. I do. I just don't like the fact that it's going head to head with another show. I don't get that. In terms of other news, Perk will face ZHANG, the Big Bang, in an IB, and then a nickname, ZHANG, the Big Bang, in an IBF final eliminator on Canelo versus Dimitri Bivol undercard on May 7th. So that's, look, I think we all kind of know what we're going to get with that fight, to be honest with you. I mean, ZHANG, to be fair to ZHANG, he does have a bit of pop. He's just, I think he's nearly 40. He's not got a particularly good defense. He's not particularly fast. I just think he's going to, I'm sure he's got the power to hurt Hrgovic, although Hrgovic has always shown, certainly in the pro game anyway, he's not been in there with many big guys who could really dent them. He's shown a decent enough chin, decent whiskers, but Zhang does seem to have power there. But I just think that I just think Hrgovic is going to walk through him. I really do. I think he's going to absolutely beat the crap out of ZHANG, and that's not going to last too long. This one came out of left field. Don King won the purse bid for Trevor Bryan versus Daniel Dubois, $3.116 million to Frank Warren's $2.5 million. Serious bids going in here, like in terms of, well, I suppose it's heavyweight at the end of the day, but put it in context. This is for a WBA regular title against Daniel Dubois, whose best win is, who would you say his best win is? Bogdan Dinu? Nathan Gorman? Bogdan Dinu, maybe? And Trevor Bryan, whose best win, Stavern. Probably Stavern is his best win. They're bidding over $2.5 million and a little over $3 million. And Hrgovic and Hunter in that IBF Eliminator a few years ago, it was in the hundreds of thousands. And this is in the millions. I'm amazed that Don King still has that kind of money to throw around, to be honest with you. That's crazy. So you would imagine Dubois is going on to fight on one of those obscure Don King shows, and they really are obscure, which is annoying because I like covering Daniel Dubois fights, and if it's on a Don King card, no chance of me covering that, because Don King is known for being an absolute you-know-what for copywriting YouTube channels who even talk about, they don't even show footage, they just talk about his fights. He's known for that. He done it with he done it with the Brian Stavern fight. I didn't see many people do reviews on Tabisa Machunu versus Don King. Versus Don King. Wait, that's the next thing. Tabisa Machunu versus Don King in court. Don King at 90. That'll be the next thing. But it was the Lunga Makabu he fought. But even the quality of them cards is pretty poor. It's really poor. In terms of that fight, Brian Dubois, if it's the Brian who fought Stavern, if it's the Brian who fought that other guy, Daniel Dubois knocks this guy out in a couple of rounds. And Daniel Dubois probably knocked this guy out without even trying, to be honest with you. I mean, Trevor Bryan, he had that stretch of inactivity, and since then he's not looked particularly good at all. He's been heavier. He's been getting, he went 11 rounds with Stavern. And Stavern, he lost, but he wasn't, Joyce handled Stavern no problem. Wilder in both fights. In the first fight, it was a much fresher Stavern. No problem. You're going 11 rounds at this stage with a 40-something-year-old Stavern who's looked horrendous against Joe Joyce 2 years prior. It's not a good look. So I'd imagine Dubois would get rid of him reasonably quickly. Where was it? I seen this. Oh, yes. That, it's saying here that Luis de Cubas is someone who works with Al Heyman. They are trying to make Luis Ortiz versus Andy Ruiz. That's literally what they're expecting to have announced next. Ortiz versus Ruiz. I'm going to say it for the Americans, I feel bad, but expect that fight is going to be on Fox pay-per-view. Fox tend to take the heavyweight cards. They've Lennox Lewis as one of the commentators. Lennox Lewis is a Marmite commentator. I don't really mind him, but I know some people don't particularly like him on commentary. I don't really mind him, to be honest with you. But I reckon that will go down on Fox pay-per-view sometime during the summer. Andy Ruiz been out of the ring since he had that win, very tough win, over Chris Arreola about April last year, in around that time. And obviously Ortiz coming off a win over Charles Martin, in which he looked absolutely terrible. I mean, he looked shocking. Dropped twice, once from a jab, rallied, got Charles Martin out of there, fair play. But he looked absolutely shocking in that fight. You would imagine if Andy Ruiz... Now, this thing about Andy Ruiz, he's been very inactive himself. You know, he had no fights in 2020. He had one fight last year, and he's not even got a fight announced this year. So obviously the year is only young, but nevertheless, still, it's been quite inactive from Andy Ruiz. But prime Ortiz, probably pick him to beat Andy Ruiz. In fact, I definitely would pick him to beat Andy Ruiz. This Ortiz now that we have, who, you know, never mind radiocarbon dating, just ask Luis Ortiz how old something is. He was around when it was built. That's the Ortiz we have now. That's the Luis Ortiz we have. So, Andy Ruiz, I would imagine, Ortiz can't take a real good shot nowadays. He's as slow as anything. I mean, he is as slow as balls. He really is. He is absolutely slow as molasses. So, Ortiz is there for the taking, and I reckon that Ruiz, even Ruiz at probably 70-80% could probably take care of Ortiz now, to be honest with you. Ortiz is like there for the taking. That's why I'm amazed some promoters aren't getting on the phone. Someone like a Frank Warren, who maybe wants to give Daniel Dubois that kind of name and saying, name your price. I want to give Daniel Dubois, my fighter, the name, not the actual opponent in terms of skill, but the name your price. 2 million, there you go, take it. Oh, he's the only man other than Deontay Wilder to beat Luis Ortiz. Hey, something like that maybe. I'm surprised people aren't doing that. Maybe they are, but Al Heyman just wants to keep it in-house. More than likely that's it. And they'll probably make more money against Andy Ruiz doing it on Fox pay-per-view than he would, to be fair, going against someone like Dubois or someone like that on another network. So that's pretty much, I'm going to have one last recap. I think that's pretty much it. It's been mainly dominated by the heavyweights today. In fact, there's light heavyweights and heavyweights. That's pretty much been it. And unless I'm very much mistaken, which I don't think I am, I think that is pretty much it. So that's pretty much it with regards to the midweek review. Obviously, this Saturday, we will be doing the Josh Warrington versus Kiko Martinez fight. I got to get a prediction video out for that. Touch and go with the watch along for that. Like, I'm not going to be home most of the day on Saturday. If I get home before 9, then I'll definitely do a watch along. If I'm home after that, I don't want to just do a watch along for the main event. I like to kind of get myself into it. And if we have a really crap undercard, at least I have some people to talk to and I have some people to rant to. And most of them agree with the rants, to be fair, when I say this card's crap. So the watch alongs are good fun. So hopefully I'll get home to do one of them. If not, we'll obviously talk about the fight. We'll do streams and all that jazz. But if I can get the watch along in, we will. Obviously, I want to give my 2 cents on that fight. I want to talk about the undercard as well, because it's not actually a bad card. And I was thinking of doing it in this video, but I might as well just do it in the full preview and prediction. So I'll give my 2 cents on the Kiko Warrington fight, and I'll look down the undercard as well. Those Leeds cards do tend to be quite fun. You know, the fans are very lively up there, extremely lively. The atmosphere looks incredible up there. So, of course, I'll be having my 2 cents on that, giving my, thoughts and opinions on it. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's the midweek review sorted for now, lads and lassies. I'll leave you with that. We should have a live out tomorrow evening at some stage with guests. I get a guest on tomorrow. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So lads and lassies, if you could, smash the like button. Got a little goal in my head for the weekend, if we can do the watch along. A little goal in my head of what I want to achieve this weekend, and I wonder if we can get there. I'll tell you more about that maybe on Saturday. For now, I'll leave you with that. Smash the like button, help your boy out. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.